Today's video I'm going to go over all things group related. So I know this is going to be a pretty long video. However, if you look on YouTube down at the progress bar, you can see I put it into different chapters or sections so you can actually go straight to a specific point of the video if you're looking for one specific feature. However, if you do book a lot of groups, whether you're a new user or a long-term user, I still think it's probably worth your time to watch the entire thing because there's a lot of good information in here, some of which you may not be aware of even if you're a long-term user of the system. So for those of you that are new, groups in the system in VCRM are, for the most part, are the same process that you would use for any other booking. As far as like putting the child bookings in, that process is the same. There's profiles, then a trip under that, then a reservation under that where you put in the actual details for that room. However, with groups, you actually also create a group profile and then you end up linking all of the trips to that group so that you have one central location where you can see who's part of the group, when they're traveling, what the status is of their trip, their balances. There's a lot of reports you can run. But other than that, the process is pretty much the same. So I'm going to teach you how to enter a group into the system. So the first thing you're going to want to do is when you know the group is going to happen, and this is before anyone is actually booking into the group, you're going to go into search profile and you're going to add a new group profile. Now if you're not sure if you've created a profile for that group yet or not, you can search here by last name or group, and a quick way to tell if it's a group profile versus a client profile is the first name will be blank on all the group profiles. So if I search DW, you can see I've got several in here. But oftentimes you're going to know whether or not you've created a profile yet. So I'm going to click add new group profile, and you're going to see the group name here. You can do whatever format you want. I like to do something like this, so Destination Wedding, Mark and Julie, Dreams Riviera, Cancun. That way if I have a list like you saw in that search box, there were several results there, I can tell what is what just from the name. I'm also going to select the group type. We will say it's a wedding. And we're going to put in the trip date. Let's say it is May 11th of 2023. And I'm also going to put in the final payment due date of March 15th. Now, as far as the other stuff like the supplier and the reservation type and the group reservation number, you don't have to enter those things. You can if you want, but in most cases you don't need to. The default referred by, what this does is if you select, say, wedding guest here, when clients fill out the registration form, the group registration form, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, if you select this, it will automatically enter that as their referred by source on their profile. So if you're in the habit of keeping track of where your clients came from, this will do it for you. It's just one less thing for the client staff to select on the form themselves. Alright, so I'm going to put all this stuff in and click create. And now I have the group profile created. Now for those of you that have, are long-term users of the system, at that point normally you are done for the time being. However, we made some enhancements a while back that will, it adds a couple of steps, but those steps will actually save you time in the long run. So just to kind of go over some of those updates that we made. So originally with groups, what you would do is you would create the group profile like this, and you would still use the regular registration form that you're using for every other trip. And that works. However, what happens sometimes is, let's say your group leader passes out the information on the group to their friends and family. Some of those clients might be willing to book without asking a single question, so all of a sudden they're filling out this form and you're receiving form submissions from names you've never even seen before, you don't recognize at all. Now normally you can tell which group they're part of just based off of the resort and the dates that they chose, but let's say you book a lot of groups and you might have 2 or more at the same hotel with roughly the same dates or slightly overlapping dates. In that case, you're not sure which group they are actually part of. Now, what a lot of users were doing to help them out in those situations is they would add a field somewhere here in step 3 for group name. So the client could put, Mark and Julie's wedding or something like that to let you know they're part of this wedding. However, you don't have to do that anymore with the group registration form. The other issue with this form is the room or cabin type is just a text box, so they can type whatever they want. Now, as you know, with a contracted group, you typically have certain rooms on hold only. So, sometimes a client might enter a room that's not even an option on here. So you have to go back and ask them, hey, these are the 2 options or 3 options. Which do you want from that? Because that's not what you entered. But the group form will also fix that issue. The other thing with this is once they submit that, it will create the profiles in the trip. And I went ahead and added a trip in here for this. What you would have to do is you'd have to link this trip to that group. So right here on the linked group, let me refresh this. You would click here and you would say basically this trip is part of this group, and that would link it to that trip for you. I'll go ahead and do that on this and save that. Alright, so now back to the group profile. We have this group registration link. So this is pretty much the same form that I just showed you. However, the difference is it's anything that is filled out is automatically tied to this group for you, and you can customize it. So if we just look at this as of right now, you can see that the format is exactly the same, but when you get into step 3, you will see that the room and cabin type is a drop down and there's nothing there. So it's required, but they can't select anything because there are no options. So what you have to do before you can use this form is you need to go to the group profile and scroll down, and you'll see group rooms here. I have 0 of them. That's where you're going to add your inventory in there. So let's just go ahead and click add rooms. Now here we're going to put in the quantity. Let's say we have 10 of a premium deluxe garden view. Now there's a couple of other options here. So this, if you were to check this option, these 10 options or these 10 rooms would not show on the form. What that checkbox is typically for is if, in this case, like Mark and Julie are the bride and groom, if they have a different room, like a honeymoon suite or something like that, that I have in my group inventory, but I don't want other people to see that to be able to try to book it, I would check this box. And then this option, if I check this, it will hide the inventory, how many rooms are left on the form. If I leave it unchecked, it will show how many are available. So that's totally up to you. I will check this on this one, but I will leave it unchecked on the next 1 or 2 room categories that I add. What you do not want to do is select anything here when you're initially adding the rooms, because if you had a trip already linked to that and it was showing here, if you were to select that, it would show that trip is linked or booked all 10 of those rooms, which is not the case. So leave this blank when you're first adding your quantity of them. So I'll click create, and now you can see I've got 10 rooms here. They're all premium deluxe garden view rooms, and we just want to go ahead and add the rest of them. And I'll just pause the video while I add these so you don't have to watch it all. Okay, so I added the premium deluxe with plunge pool, and again I'm going to leave this unchecked on this particular one, and I did the same with the plunge pool. So now when I create, I have 30 total rooms. Now the ID, this is just what the system uses to keep track of these, so this isn't really important. So that's why they're just random numbers, because I've created in this account now, that's my 224th group room that I've added to this system. The trip ID and trip attendees are going to be blank because no one has booked any of these rooms yet. Now another thing you can do here is the group transportation and the group custom fields. So let's say that you per the group contract, shared transportation is included, but maybe you want to give your clients an option to upgrade to a private transfer. You can add both of those as options in here and have the client select from them. So we'll say add transportation, and let's just say it's Amstar, and this is shared transportation. Again, we're not linking any trips yet, so we'll click create. And actually, before I do that, I should have put something like this. So that way it'll show up on the form. And then I'm going to add a second option. So we'll put Amstar. In this case, we're going to put private transportation. And we're going to say and we'll create that. And then the custom fields, so this allows you to add another question or questions on the form that are only for this group. So if your regular registration form, you have your standard fields, it's going to use all of those plus whatever you add in here. So let's say on this group, maybe I want to ask if any of these people are interested in receiving some information on some excursions or something like that. So I say add custom field. I would say it's visible. And we will say add the comments. Now, if I just leave this as is, it'll just be a text box where they can just type in yes or no, or maybe, or whatever. Or you can click on advanced options and you can change this to like a checkbox or a radio button or a drop down. So let's just do a radio button. And it's going to ask how many options do we want. Let's say 2. And now the code is just an abbreviation. It doesn't really matter what you put in here. The description is what the client will see. But since yes and no are so short, I'll just put yes. And then description, I'll write it out. And then no. Or I guess you could just do abbreviations, just for example here, YNN. And in this case, no. And we will click create. Alright, so now that we have added all of that, if we were to, we'll just open this again, the group registration form. Now when we go to step 3, we're going to see some changes. First off, when they click room cabin type, it shows the options. Now again, this is the one that I hid the inventory, so it doesn't show. These two I allowed it. So if somebody were to fill out this form and they pick this preferred club ocean view room and submit the form, the next person that goes in behind them and fills out the form, it will show 9 available, and so on until you run out. Now if you do run out of rooms, it will still show it at the bottom, but it'll be grayed out and it'll say none currently available. We did it that way because oftentimes you can go back and request more rooms, so we wanted to show that it was available. Maybe that'll prompt the client to reach out and see if you can get another one of those. But they can't select that because at this time it's not available. And you can see here as well the transportation type. So they can say I just want the shared that's included, or I want to pay the additional $125 for private. And then here you can see is my excursion question. So they can select yes or no. Now, when they submit this form, it will automatically link, it'll do this step that we did manually here. It'll link that trip to this group profile for you, and it will also link this trip to the room that they selected. So now if we look at this trip that I put in manually, they didn't fill out that group form, so now I still need to put their trip in whichever room they selected. So I don't remember what I selected in here, so let's just see. Okay, so I picked the preferred Club Ocean View room. So what I need to do in here is find one of those, which is this one or any of these, and then click edit. And now I'm going to use that link trip because I'm going to say, well, first I got to save this. Okay, and you can see now that I've saved that, it's got that X there saying this trip is not linked to a room, so it's not pulled out of the inventory yet. So now that I've refreshed that, now I can see that client's name, click that and click save, and that will link Steve and Lauren to this particular room, and now there's only 9 available. So that is one of the major changes we made with groups. Another thing we made is if we scroll down, or actually if we start here, there's this send group page, and then there's also a spot down here for group pages. You don't have to use this either. Some agencies have a system where you have pages created on your website that are hidden, and you give direct links to them to the the bride and groom in this case, and they send that to their friends and family, and it's got all the information on the group there. There are third-party programs out there where you can create like mini websites for stuff like that. However, I saw a lot of agents using Word documents and PDFs that, didn't look great as a way to get the information out to all the potential guests. So we created a way for you to create basically a web page, a nice looking web page with details on the group. So you can send that to the group leaders and they can pass that out to their friends and family. So here's an example of one I kind of threw together for a destination wedding to Unico. So you can see here, it's got information on, who it's for, what date, what resort. I've got info on the resort here. And then from this template, I only left in the rooms that are available for this group. And then more pictures down here, and then you can show your rates here. And, if this were real, I'd probably type a lot more in the rates to, explain how these work. And then the wedding information or the booking information, and then you can actually have this button, the Book Now button, added, and that just loads the group registration form here. So nice and easy. So to create those, that's a couple of steps here. Let's go back to the group profile. So the first thing that I recommend doing is not going to send group page. First thing I would do is go to utilities and go to group page templates here. Now, you will see a lot of folders in the global section. So these are the templates that we use for the quoting tool as well, for all the different hotels and things like that, but it doesn't really have those extra components. So basically, out of all these things on this page here, the only thing I pulled from the global was this Unico information. I didn't have templates for this stuff. So I would recommend creating generic templates, master templates that you can use to plug in to create your group pages, in this case for a wedding. So what I did here is in my agency section here, I created a folder called Group Info, and then I created some pre-set up templates. So that thing you saw first here, I have that as a template, except in here, it's pretty generic. I have blanks in that I would fill out for the wedding couple's name, again here, and then I'd put in the date, and then the resort here. And then I created one for the room rates, which you can see here. I've got some stuff to fill out for each room after I plug it in. So this is, generic. The room names are generic. The pricing is gone. And I put these charts or these tables in here that I can fill out the pricing for each one. And then finally, I've got the steps to book component here, where I would again fill out, change these dates as needed. And I should have left these blank as well. So I know I've got to change some stuff after I plug it in. So once you get your, you can add your templates like this, name it, select what folder you want it to go in, what's the display name, what type, is it info or whatever, and then you just create it down here like I did. Now once you get those templates created, from the group profile at the top, you're going to say you want to send group page. And I'll put in I'll just leave it kind of generic. And do you want to have that button at the bottom for the book now for the registration form? I'm going to say agency level form. That's going to be the most common thing you're going to select here. And if you want, you can just add yourself, send it to yourself initially to create it. And then this is the email that you're going to use to send that to the client. So I'll just leave this stuff kind of blank. And then you also need to include the group page URL here, and then I'll throw in my signature. And then also for the main images and the logos, you will want to upload those. I'll just pause it here and I'll just upload them real quickly so you don't have to sit there and watch me find files. Okay, so I've got those added. Make sure after you select it, you click upload. Before you move on, because if you just select it and it shows here but you haven't clicked upload, it won't save that. Now here's where you plug everything in to create that page, like the Chris and Laura one I just showed you. So you're going to say add existing component as long as you went in first to the group page templates and created those. So we'll say add, and my recommendation is put these in the order you want it to be in, from the start. You can drag and drop to move them around, but it's easier if you do it now. So the first thing I want is from the agency section in my group folder. And so I'm going to do the intro. And then after the intro, I want to put in the hotel information. So that I'm going to grab from the global components. So we'll go to Mexico and Riviera Maya. And we'll select Dreams Riviera Cancun. And every time you click one, you'll see this little green message will come up over here. That's how you know it's been added. And then we're going to go back to the agency in my group info folder. And I'm going to add the room rates and then the steps to book. And once I've got everything entered or selected that I want to have on this page, you'll click back to folders and then back to editor, and you'll finally see kind of a preview of what you have in there so far. So this is what I have as of right now. So I've got a little bit of work to do to fill out the information. So I'm just going to click on edit next to each one. And I'm going to change this to Mark and Julie. Same thing here. And now I'm done with this, so I'm just going to click save. And then you're just going to go through each of these sections and edit them as you see fit. You don't have to do a ton here with this because a lot of that info is already entered. However, the master templates for all of these resorts have pretty much all room categories. So I want to narrow this down to only show the rooms that are available for this group. So I'm going to scroll down to the actual rooms. And so the first one was a premium deluxe garden view. So I'm going to delete the tropical part of that out. And then I think we had this one as well, so that's good. But then after that, the only other one is a preferred Club Ocean view. So we want to delete anyone that's not that. So we'll delete these out of here. And when you delete them out, make sure that you check the spacing. Like you can see there's one line in between each thing. So in this case, I need to move that up 2 lines so that it's evenly spaced across the board. So now we can delete every other room category because there are no other rooms available for this group. And then again, I'm going to just check my spacing. And now let's say you can also put videos in here. So we look through here and we've got a picture here, but maybe, like right here, I want to put a video. So I'm going to make that centered. And what I can do is I just went ahead and pulled up a random video from the Dreams Resorts YouTube channel. So I'll just copy the URL for that. And then I can go back in here and I can click this to insert media. Now, just to give you an idea, the dimensions, so when we created these, this image here is usually 600 width. You can double check it by clicking here. And then the smaller images down here are 500 width. So keep that in mind when you put in your video to kind of determine what size you want to make it. So let's just put in the source and let's just say we want to make it 500 wide. And you won't be able to see it here, but once you send it out or save it, it'll be an actual video that they can click on from this page. And other than that, I think I'm pretty good with this one, so we'll just go ahead and click save. So now I've edited this one. So you're just going to go, there you go, there's your video. You're going to go through and edit each component as needed for this exact trip or group, including here I'm going to put in the rates I won't actually do that because it'll take too long. So this is where I'd change, I'd give an example with pricing so the client can see kind of how to calculate their pricing, put in all my rates in here. And to create these, all I did was I just right-clicked and I created a table, and you pick, what shape you want it to be, and then just fill this stuff out. And you can play with the sizing and things like that. So we'll go ahead and save that as well. And let's just assume that the other one, the last item, is everything I want. So I'm pretty much done. You can preview it if you want. I'm just going to go ahead and click send because I just put in my own email address there. And now that I've sent that, when I scroll down, I've got a group page here. So since I send it to myself, not the clients, I can double check to look at it and view it here. Make sure everything looks good on this screen. And if I'm satisfied with that, I can just copy and paste. I can view and copy and paste the URL to it to send it to Mark and Julie. If there's an issue with it, you don't need to create it again. You can just click edit. You can edit it in here and then save your changes. Now, if you edit a component like this, there's a save button here, but you also need to save the overall whole thing again down here. So now I've got that saved. I can send it off to my wedding couple, and then they can, pass it out to their friends and family and anyone interested in going to their wedding. Another thing that we added, and you may be familiar with this because we have something similar to this on the invoice information on the individual trip screen as well. If you enter anything here, it will show on all invoices that are linked to this group. So you could put, something like that, and then just type in just put in whatever you want and then save that. And what that will do is if I go ahead and go to my trip that I already have linked here and I preview the invoice, it will show that at the very top of that invoice. So that's a good way for anything important that you want people to see as soon as they see the invoice for everyone that's part of the group. If there's something that you want to add only for one specific person that's part of the group and not everyone else, do it from their trip screen. You can do that right here. Now another thing that we also added up here is this group info page. So we're going to leave this box unchecked for right now. So what this is for is, prior to this, for a lot of time, I found that agents were spending a lot of their time answering questions from the group leader, so Mark and Julie here, on updates on who's booked. And there were a lot of spreadsheets getting, attached and sent back and forth via email. You send it to them today, and then two of their friends book later today, and then you have to, update your spreadsheet and send it back to them and say, hey, here's an updated one. You no longer have to do this. You can send this link to the wedding couple or the group leader, whatever it is, very early on, and just let them know, hey, anytime you want to see an update on who's booked or what rooms are available or any of that, you can just click this link. It's synced up with my system, so that'll tell you everything you need to know. So if Mark or Julie here wanted to see that, and I've already sent them this link, they can just take a look, and they can see as of right now, they've only got one room booked, and that's my room there. They can see I'm deposited, and I'm going on May 11th for 3 nights. All these other rooms are still available. So if later today someone else books and they click on the link after that, it's going to show them there. It'll actually show as soon as they fill out the group registration form. It will load it on here. It'll be a waiting deposit status, so it's not officially booked yet, but they have filled out the form and taken the steps. That's a good way for them to double check to make sure that, if we're getting close to penalty time, if they need to drop some rooms, they can keep an eye on that as well. So that is a big help for that, but it's also used for another thing. So oftentimes, I know a lot of agencies don't like to book air for their groups, So there comes that time where everyone needs to book their own air and then send you the schedule, and then you have to get that info to the transfer company. So what you can do is you can check this box, and I'll save that. And then you can also go into a client's reservation like this, and I went ahead and already added air in there. And what you're going to do is, you didn't book the air, so the price is $0, but what you're going to want to do is check this box, and then you're also going to need to fill this out. So flight passengers, which people from this trip are on this flight. In this case, let's say both Lauren and myself are on here, and then we want to do the same thing down below. And the reason you have to select the flight passengers is because we set it up this way because we know there are times where two friends that live in different cities might be rooming together, but obviously they're going to fly in on different flights. So if that were the example here, say this is Lauren's flight, I'd select her name, then I would add a second component for my flight, and then do this and select only my name. But in this case, let's just assume that both of us are arriving and departing on the exact same flight. So we'll just do that and click Save. And then we'll go back here and just refresh this. Now if I click on this, you can scroll to the bottom and it'll show the group flights. So you could send this to the supplier or the transfer company so that they can, scroll to the bottom and they can see, for arrival on the 11th, they have an arrival at 1:25 p.m. With Delta Airlines on flight 333. And then for departure on the 14th, they have, again, Delta Airlines 444. These are the clients on it at 2:07 p.m. That too will update as you add their air in there. So that can save you a significant amount of time as well. Now, another benefit to putting everything in a group is you can add reminders to the group profile, or you can even do reminder groups, which are batches of reminders. There's separate videos on that I recommend watching, but basically you could go up here if you're manually putting them in, and you could put in a reminder that's due, maybe put in a reminder a week before rooms need to be reduced to avoid penalties. That'll show up on your dashboard tied to this group already, so you don't even have to put in the reminder text which group you need to do that for. You could just say reduced rooms, and if you click on that reminder, it'll take you to this exact group profile to let you know that's what you need to do. If there are several reminders that you frequently use on every one of your groups, you can create a group profile, a reminder group for your groups, and you can apply it in bulk. I don't know if I actually have anything in here. It will base it off of either the group trip date or the group final payment due date, and it'll calculate the date for you and add those reminders in bulk to this group, and again show on your dashboard. We also have the email group feature, which allows you to apply customized automated emails in bulk to a client's or to a group, and it will email everyone that's part of that group automatically for you when it is triggered to do so. So if you want to set up an email for, a reminder for them to send you their flight schedule, or if there are any things they need to do a few weeks prior to their travel that you want to send out, you can apply it one time on this one screen, and it'll send out emails to everyone that is part of the group. So that can save you a lot of time as well. And then finally, the other benefit to putting these in is now you can run reports in your system reports here. There are several different reports that are dedicated to your groups. I would say the most popular ones are the group status, whether it be the agent or the client version. These two are the same thing. The agent version has the financial information on it though. So the client version, when I'm running a report for a group, typically I'll do it by trip date and check the box for all dates just to take the date out of the equation. But then I will select this specific group here. So in this case, I'm actually going to select this one because I have more trips linked to that one, just to give you an idea. So you can see at a glance, how many rooms there are, who's in each room, the status, arrival, departure. If you had their air on this same reservation, it will show here And you can, customize this if you want to remove certain things. So the group name's the same. I don't need that. So you can see here, here's the arrival flights. And let's get rid of some more stuff. And here's the departure flights. So you can play around. Just, it doesn't hurt to go through and run the different group reports just to see what different information is on them. But can be very helpful as well. So I think that's everything I have for groups. Hopefully this was helpful. If you do have any questions though, or things I didn't go over you're still wondering about, feel free to reach out. You can email help@vacationcrm.com. Thank you.